Hey guys, Mike here. So here it is, the big one. My top 10 movies of 2018. All year I've been really looking forward to making this video, and now I finally am. Now, first a little disclaimer, these movies aren't necessarily perfect. They're not exactly got the best score on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. They're just my favourite movies. So if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. But another little disclaimer, I go by UK release date, so if you see a movie on this list that came out in 2017, it came out in the UK this year, so that's why it's on my list. So, with all that out of the way, let's get started with my top 10 movies of 2018. Number 10. So, kicking off my list, we have Green Book. So, this first movie on my list was a secret screening, meaning, I didn't know what I was going to go see. But, I thought that it was going to be something like Aquaman because it was only like a couple of weeks from being released. But then, when the movie started, everyone was looking around wondering, what's this? No one's ever heard of it. My mates actually, Lennon asked me what I thought it was, and I was actually a bit stumped. I'd only actually seen the poster, so I didn't really know what it was. But actually, when the movie reached its conclusion, just when it was in the first 20 minutes, I was actually glad that I saw this over Aquaman, because I don't think I actually would have gone to see this movie if it wasn't a secret screening. Now, first of all, you can't really go wrong with Viggo Mortensen. The guy always gives 110% in pretty much everything that he's been in. And, seeing this movie really makes me want to go back and just watch more of his movies, because I just absolutely love this guy. And Mahershala Ali as well, I haven't really seen him in that many things, but again, I really want to just see his back catalogue and, just see more of what he's done and what he's going to do in the future. But, other than that, it teaches people about a point in history that not many people know about, not necessarily with the racial divide of the 60s, but more with the actual Green Book itself, because, I'd never actually heard of the Green Book, and I'm pretty sure actually the stars of the movie, at least one or two of them actually had never heard of it themselves. But, though the movie doesn't actually focus that much on the Green Book, they do go over a little bit about what it's about. But this isn't the main focus of the movie. So, they probably actually should have called it something different. The main focus of this movie is just watching the character development of Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali's characters, just seeing how they're just so opposite and how they come together just to be the best of friends. For nothing else, you should just really watch this movie as a buddy road trip movie, because that's pretty much the way you'll have the most enjoyment out of this movie. Not to take away from anything else that happens in the movie, but it is definitely the best part of it. And that's why Green Book kicks off my list. Number 9. We all like to go to the cinema, we all like to just go watch a movie on the big screen. But more often than not, it's absolutely ruined by people on their phones, eating too loud, or just generally being annoying as hell. But this movie was the exception, because I didn't hear a single peep out of anyone throughout it. You got people just coughing into the shirts because they just don't want to make a noise and ruin the tension of this movie. The movie I'm talking about is, of course, A Quiet Place. My God, this movie, I had no idea it was going to be this good. This movie was just so good. From the settings, to the cast, to the suspense, everything about this movie was just so enjoyable. And though there is one or two scenes of dialogue in this movie, you really could have actually just gone without them and had the whole movie just be sign language and just pretty much no speaking at all. I'm not going to go out there and say that the movie is entirely original or completely flawless, but just for the simple fact that this is one of the greatest cinema experiences I've had in my entire life, it just had to make the list. But that's not to say that this movie isn't good in any sense, because obviously it has to be good to make the list. But it is definitely mainly because of the great cinema experience I had, and I cannot wait for the sequel for this movie. I just hope that they don't mess it up in some way. Number 8. Now, we seem to be living in a world just full of franchises these days. Some franchise we wish would just end, some franchise we wish would actually just get off the ground and actually start up. But there are some franchises that somehow just keep getting better and better from movie to movie. And this movie has to be easily the best one in the entire franchise. That movie is Mission Impossible Fallout. Despite what you think of Tom Cruise in real life, you cannot deny the impact that this guy has had on cinema and just action movies in general. I tell you what, this movie did actually have to be good, because it really had to pay off for Henry Cavill's mustache. It's just great to see a movie that isn't so heavy on CGI in its action. It's just great to see a movie that's mostly done through practical effects. But with Tom Cruise, you always think, how's he going to up the stunt from the last movie? Because in the last Mission Impossible movie, he hung out of a friggin' plane. But trust Tom Cruise to absolutely up the ante with a helicopter chase scene. It was absolutely entertaining as hell from start to finish. Pretty much like this whole movie. And again, I cannot wait to see the next movie in the franchise. Hopefully, if there is one. I can't imagine there won't be one, because, this movie is done insanely well. Number 7. You know, these days we've pretty much seen near enough anything when it comes to how a movie's presented. But you know, occasionally we get that movie that really does surprise us. I mean, I'm not saying that this movie is 100%, you know, original in how it's presented, but I'd say this is the first movie that really did nail it and actually gave a good movie around this format. The movie which I'm talking about is Searching. Now again, I didn't really know much about this movie going in. You know, I tried to avoid all the trailers, but you know, overall I didn't really expect much from it. But then, just after the first 10-15 minutes, I was already hooked. I mean, something that I'll really praise this movie for is that you really have to look at it ever so carefully. You're scanning the screen, looking for the little individual clues to try and find out, you know, what's happened or what's going to happen next. I mean, this movie just keeps you guessing and guessing, and just when you think you've got it cracked, the movie takes a complete left turn, and then you don't know what to do with yourself. And pretty much one of the most underrated parts about this movie just has to be John Cho's performance. The guy really just gives it his all to this movie. And I don't think he's probably going to get a lot of nominations or awards for this movie. But you know, I definitely nominate him for something. Number 6. For as long as I've been alive, I have been a massive fan of Queen and their music, and it's just so great to see that they now have a movie. That movie is Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, first off, it can't be understated how brilliant Rami Malek was in this movie. I mean, he's easily the most standout thing about it. It's very rare that you just get these just absolutely perfect castings. I mean, the guy just absolutely nails everything about Freddie Mercury. He nails his stage presence, his charisma, just the sorrow in his life. Though obviously he doesn't really do much of the singing, which is obviously a downside, but it is hard to capture what Freddie Mercury was like as a singer. But just everything about this movie as well was just so great as well. Though this movie wasn't exactly 100% original in its presentation, this didn't stop it from being an absolute enjoyable experience for me. And as well, though it may not have been 100% accurate as well, it didn't stop me again from enjoying it as much as I did. I mean, not to give a spoiler for this movie, but my absolute favourite scene in the movie had to be the live Rio performance. Just what an absolutely incredible scene. And though, like I say, I'm a massive fan of Queen, there were just a couple of songs in this movie that I'd actually never heard before. I mean, not to say I've heard every single Queen song that's ever been written, but it's just nice to hear a lot more of their hits. I mean, I think Rami Malek's got a good chance of winning the Oscar this year for Best Actor. I mean, if he's not nominated, I'm just wondering what movies are the Academy even watching. Number 5. Next on my list, we have Upgrade. Now, this movie, I didn't really know what to expect from it. You know, I try to avoid all the trailers, as I normally do for most movies, because I do hate trailers. But a friend of mine actually saw this movie before me and said, yeah, definitely go see it. It is actually a good movie. So I thought, you know what, with that ringing endorsement, I'll actually go see the movie. But I tell you what, he massively undersold this movie. Now, first of all, the story isn't exactly 100% original, but the main things that make this movie so good is, first of all, the relationship between Grey and Stem. First of all, they have just such great chemistry and they work really well together. But as well, they actually have quite a funny relationship as well. This mainly comes with Stem pointing out the obvious and Grey reacting to it. I mean, not once did this fail to get a laugh. But then, the main thing that makes this movie so great is its action. Like I said in my review, this is some of the most original and well choreographed action that I've ever seen in a movie, ever. I mean, the movie's budget does not reflect the quality of this movie. And ultimately, it just calls into question, why do we keep accepting mediocre action movies when we have action movies like this that are really pushing the boundaries of what action movies can do? But as well, I think it's actually sad that this movie didn't have a bigger budget, and it would just be great to see a movie that has an insane budget do something like this. And you know, there may be a movie like that on this list. Number 4. Now, it's not often that a second movie is as good as its first movie, but with this movie, it's definitely the exception. That movie is Deadpool 2. Now, obviously, I had high expectations for this movie, and these expectations were definitely met, and at quite a lot of parts, they were definitely surpassed as well. Everything from the cast, to the action, to the comedy, everything about this movie was just so enjoyable. I mean, Ryan Reynolds as well proves that he was just born to play Deadpool. But as well, the new characters as well proved why they belong in this franchise. What with Zazie Beetz' Domino and Josh Brolin's Cable, just every character in this movie really fits in, and they make just such an enjoyable movie. And I cannot wait to see the X-Force movie. I mean, if they decide to make it, what with the whole Fox-Disney deal going on, anything's up in the air at this point, but it would just be great to see Deadpool go into the MCU. But I will say this about the movie, don't watch Once Upon a Deadpool, it was an absolute bust. Just stick to this movie. Number 3. It seems these days a lot of movies are trying to be like the MCU. They still have their little standalone movies, then they have their big ensemble cast movie. But then you get these movies that really do try and rush and get to the ensemble movie, and it just feels disjointed and unentertaining, and you're just confused for the whole time, and you just don't know what's really going on with it. I mean, this is definitely the case for the DCEU. They've been rushing too much, and they're just trying to get to their ensemble movies way too quickly. But the times where they really shine is with their solo movies, like Wonder Woman, and like with Aquaman, number 3 on my list. I mean, Aquaman, I thought it was just going to be another run-of-the-mill, average DC movie, or it could have had the potential of being absolutely terrible, but this could not be further from the case. I mean, you could argue that Aquaman is a bit too dude bro-y and a bit too far from the source material, but I do actually enjoy Jason Momoa's performance, and I just really like Jason Momoa. Now again, the story isn't 100% original, and it's a very kind of basic comic book, or a basic story in general. Someone's trying to take over the world, or at least start a war, so the hero has to step in to stop them from doing it. But this does not distract from how amazing this film was. First of all, with its action. I mean, you know earlier, like I said, how Upgrade would have been better had it had a bigger budget? Well, this is the upgraded, see what I did there, version of that movie. Well, again, you know, Upgrade did benefit from having a lower budget. It did kind of fit in with its world. But Aquaman really runs with this really high level of action. Pretty much from the first to the very last action scene, you're just on edge the entire time, and you're just absolutely enthralled by what's going on screen. And from all movies, I didn't know that Aquaman, like I said in my review, was going to set the standard for how all action should be done in movies. I mean, you could just see everything that it was going on. And my biggest regret for this movie was that I didn't actually go see it in IMAX. So, you know, with Aquaman being as great as it is, it really gives me hope that the DCEU can still pull it off and still be a great franchise. So, you know, here's looking at you, Shazam. See if you can actually be as good as Aquaman. Number 2. So, I've said before that Doctor Strange was the best experience I had at IMAX for visuals, and that Dunkirk was the best experience I had for sound, but Ready Player One takes the cake for both sound and visuals, and became the best IMAX experience that I've ever had in my entire life. So first of all, the Oasis. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. I mean, you're just sitting there just thinking, why can I not be in this world right now? I mean, often in movies, they say that these virtual worlds are only really limited by your imagination, but Ready Player One really presents a world that is, and actually probably could be, limited by your own imagination. I mean, hell, it could even actually go beyond your own imagination, because this movie is absolutely insane. Everything from the characters, to the action, to the insane amount of pop culture references that are in this movie are absolutely brilliant. I mean, I tell you what, the ultimate thing you could do with this movie is just to have a game seeing how many pop culture references you can name in this movie. But actually, I'd say that you shouldn't make this a drinking game, because I think you'd be dead by the halfway point of the movie. As well, had this been a different year, this definitely probably would have made number 1 on my list. But with what is actually at number 1, there was pretty much no chance. But again, not to say that this movie wasn't as great as it was, because it certainly was definitely entertaining. And for this reason, it is number 2 on my list. Alright guys, just before we get to number 1, I want to do some honourable mentions. Not to say that these movies weren't worth getting on the top 10 list, but they were definitely worth a mention. So here they are, my honourable mentions of 2018.
Can you close the closet door?
We're far from the shallow now.
The Screen Slater interrupts this program for an important announcement.
Suit up, it might get weird.
I'll be there ASAP.
Where you going ASAP? You better be back ASAP.
Shouldn't it be Ralph Wrecks the Internet?
Yeah, since he is Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, but break the internet, it's like a thing.
Right, it's just Wreck the Internet kind of sounds better, doesn't it?
You're not wrong.
We're gonna die. I don't wanna die. We didn't die!
Hey, what'd I miss?
We were just tiny.
It takes two to make a thing go right.
Number 1. So here it is, guys. My number 1 movie of 2018. I'd been looking forward to this movie since it was announced like 2 or 3 years ago. But now that I've finally seen it, it just defied all my expectations. So, my number 1 movie of 2018 goes to Avengers Infinity War. I mean, realistically, there was no competition for me. As soon as I saw it, it went skyrocketing number 1, and it's stayed there for at least 8 months now. I mean, other movies have flip-flopped around and kind of moved up and down on my list, but this movie has not moved an inch. I mean, first of all, the massive ensemble cast. It's just mad to think that only 6 years ago, it was insane to think that 6 characters coming together on screen was an insane concept. But now, we've got 20 plus characters that have been built up over the last 10 years coming together on screen. I mean, though you could argue that some characters didn't get enough screen time as others, but I think they actually spread out the time necessary between each of the characters, and it cannot be understated how great most everyone is in the movie, especially Josh Brolin's Thanos. I mean, it shows how great a character is when people have real, actual discussions about whether he's right or wrong to do what he does. You can actually respect the motive that he has, because he's not doing it for the sake of wanting to rule the universe. He's doing it because he believes it's the absolute right thing to do. And you know, you can respect that about a character. And for me, he's easily the best MCU villain, and possibly one of the best villains that cinema has ever produced. I mean, everything in this movie was just absolutely insane. The cast, the CGI, the fight scenes, the story. It really did elevate the MCU to whole new levels. And I cannot wait to see Avengers Endgame. Though I have avoided the trailers like the plague and I have absolutely no idea what to expect, this still doesn't stop me from really looking forward to this movie. And so, for all these reasons, Avengers Infinity War is my number 1 movie of 2018. Okay guys, there you have it, my top 10 movies of 2018. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. And just as a whole, 2018 has been an absolute insane year for movies. We've had some great ones, we've had some bad ones, but overall, I was actually very happy with what I've got. So, I cannot wait to see what 2019 brings us. I hope you've all had a wonderful year, and until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!